Yeah, we've got a few farmers that are a bit worried about what tax they've had in the past, and in particular missed payments or the tax they've got to pay in the future. So they're coming to us and sort of saying, well, what do we do about our funding options? Obviously the first option would be to have a look at the bank, but it's not necessarily the best now. We find they're taking a tighter line on actually funding tax payments and raising questions about why do you not be able to afford the tax, what have you done wrong, where's the money going? So there's a couple of options around it. The best one is actually use a tax intermediary. So this is someone that you arrange sort of finance with, and then they pay the tax to IRD on your behalf. It doesn't involve the bank, there's no security required, and basically it's just a contract to pay some tax in the future with them.
So how does it work? You give them a whole lot of money and then they pay
Well,
it?
you don't even have to give them a whole lot of money up front. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. So if you've missed payments in the past, you basically say to them, look, I'm going to buy some tax off you, and they charge you a bit of interest, you pay that plus some tax, and they backdate it to when you missed your payments. So you can get rid of your IRD penalties and interest and things like that. So you're making a bit of a saving there. There is an interest cost, but it's far cheaper
Gotcha.
than what IRD actually charge.
Yeah.
And you don't have the penalties. So that's a big saving, especially with the way that IRD charge them.
So it's basically borrowing.
Yeah, that's a sort of a form of borrowing there. The other one is basically tax pooling. So you agree with the intermediary that at some point in the future you're going to pay them a lump of tax. They could make you pay an upfront interest cost, and then they go and arrange with IRD a payment on your behalf, so they fund it, and it sits in a trust account until you pay them the money, and then it automatically goes into your tax account with IRD as if you paid it on time.
Trust accounts. A lot of people swallow hard when you mention
Yeah.
trust accounts.
And normally you would, but this is a very legit setup with IRD. It's managed by an independent trustee. There's nothing that can go wrong. It's been around for years, and we've got a few that have used it and found it very, very successful. So it's perfect for those people, they've got suddenly a provisional tax bill coming up, say, 20, 30,000, no cash to pay it. Instead of having to go to the bank and sort of argue with them and potentially affect future funding and go through all the credit checks, you can just go to this crowd and say, look, we want 20,000 now, and I'm going to pay it when my money comes in, say January,
From
February.
the wall check.
Yeah. So you can time it to actually match when you've got the cash in your account, rather than sort of scrambling to find it when you don't have it.
And it's obviously a bit cheaper than an overdraft.
Oh, far cheaper. Yep, the interest rates are very, very good on it. And it's very easy to arrange. You just give your accountant a call and say, look, I've got a bit of strife here. Can we get some tax financing in place? And they can just do it on your behalf. And it can be done sort of same day even.
Communication, isn't it amazing?
Yeah, indeed.
Minimum wages. There's been a bit of a shadow over certain parts of our industry.
Yeah, well, we've had a vineyard now that's come out, and he employed sort of 50 plus migrant workers. Tried to pay them a lot less than what they are entitled to. He also falsified timesheets, so he had pre-filled out timesheets that he made them sign to say they worked certain hours, but they'd actually done a lot more. So he was hauled up before the Employment Relations Authority and basically was done by them. He had $9,500 penalty to pay to the Crown. He had to pay his workers, and also had some costs as part of the hearing that he had to cover. He tried to argue that he couldn't pay them what they were worth because they racked up debts for him, but that wasn't the case.
No, and the other thing is that minimum wage is a minimum wage.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it doesn't matter who you are, you're entitled to that, but he thought he could get away with it.
You don't get away with
No,
it.
you don't.
Now, record keeping. I
Yeah.
know that's an old thing as far as you're concerned.
Yeah,
but
it's something
let's
that we
talk about
sort
it.
of keep coming back to because we keep getting questions about it. A lot of people think that, come the end of the financial year, they biff out records from 7 years ago and that's it. It's a little bit more involved than that. It's actually what taxable period it relates to. So, if you've got a GST return that was, say, 31 July 2010, you'd only now be getting rid of it. You wouldn't have thrown it out back at the end of June. People think, my balance date is when I get rid of those records. That's not the case. It actually depends on what the period end date was. It's 7 years from then before you can get rid of it.
Yeah, okay, because I mean, it's they can call back, can't they? They can pop
Oh,
in and say,
definitely, yeah.
we want
Yeah.
to go over that.
Yeah, so they normally go back 4 or 5 years, but they're entitled to go back 7. So if they flag something in the 5th year, 5 years ago, then they could go back the year before and say, what did you do there? So it's important you still have those records there, even if you think they're minor. It could be a GST return that was a couple $100 refund. You still got to make sure you've got all those records, the bank statements, the receipts, and that sort of thing.
That's actually quite amazing because you'd think that that's gone.
Yeah, but the legislation allows for it. So if IRD do find that you've been untoward and it's been there for a while, they will go back that long way. And we've seen it happen with some major tax cases. So
Comes back, I guess, really to your Triton business, because that's the record that is very simple for the IOD to look at.
It is, yeah. So that's a record of your GST in and out, etc. But you still have those paper records behind it, and that's the one that a lot of people forget about. And especially in this world with bank statements, they get them online. If you don't have those bank statements when they come looking, you could be in a bit of strife, because that's proof that you paid those bills. So it's if you change banks part way through a financial year, make sure you've downloaded all your bank statements before you terminate that other bank.
Because I've seen a lot of farmers' offices, and I tell you what, you wouldn't be able to find anything in there.
Yeah, and I've just recently experienced that, and or they've got them stored in the wool shed, and so a mouse has got to it and eaten half the records. If they come looking and it's not up to standard, that's your problem, not theirs.
Exactly. Kerry, thank you very much indeed.